I can't say how many times I've forgotten. Yeah.
All right, y'all, it's recorded.
Alrighty. So this is the Like This, Watch That panel. Still here on the first day of VCon and our fifth anniversary of VCon. So the purpose of this panel is to give more of a personal touch to those uh your next watch things that pop up on, the typical screens when you have your streaming. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are our favorites or maybe not favorites, and have some suggestions of other things that we think, oh, if you like this thing, you might like that. And here are the reasons why we think you might like one or the other, based on some of the attributes of the Like This show. So diving right in. Oh, actually, my mistake. Let me introduce ourselves. My name is Robin. I am one of the administrators of Color Fandom. And my partner in this is Deborah, also an administrator in Color Fandom.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, just because we this is part two for people who are gonna watch this on our YouTube. Because we already did one in on when we did it for GalaxyCon.
Yeah, last
We were
July.
gonna do a whole nother slew of movies and shows.
Yeah, so these are all new suggestions. All righty, so the first one's yours, Deborah, so I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Um, so if you love all or most of the Mad Max franchise, um, so I categorize my groupings, and this one is apocalyptic worlds that are centered around cars or vehicles. And so Mad Max follows Max and Furiosa as they survive after Australia has become a wasteland due to war, and gas is a commodity, um, a very dangerous commodity, resulting in road wars and gangs. Um, if you really enjoy Mad Max, but want a little lighter hearted um, dystopian Twisted Metal, which is based off of the video game with the same name, is a new show on Peacock that follows a character named John Doe, which is Anthony Mackie's character. He is what do you call a milkman, which are freelance drivers. Um, they could be men or women. They just named them milkman. They are tasked uh, to deliver goods to cities that are left in a post-apocalypse, after the apocalypse in the United States. And outside of those cities is their wasteland, and they have to drive through the wasteland area where they encounter a whole lot of lawlessness, including vigilante law enforcement that taken upon themselves to uphold the law of people who live outside of the standing cities. 'Cause the United States has been named the divided states of America. Um, then Curfew is even kind of lesser known show because it it's a a UK show, but uh it came out on Spectrum in the I believe in 2019 or 2020. So this one is set in the UK with a unstoppable virus that turns people into feral creatures, kind of like in I Am Legend. So they're not zombies, they're infected people, which there's a difference. um, and they take over the planet to stop the spread. The curfew has been set where between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m., if you're caught outside, they send you into a government mandate quarantine.
Mm.
And it follows a set of people who have been offered to compete in illegal street racing, and the government is going to find them sanctuary. So it's all kind of hijinks. But what drew me to this, other than it being, like a post-apocalyptic, because I love that genre, that there's a lot of they got a lot of like actors in this, and I was like, oh, Sean Bean, I want to see if he dies. So
Is that Billy Zane?
yeah, and Billy Zane. There's so many people in there. It's some really it's a fun show. It's still I don't if you do, most people don't have Spectrum, but it's on and it's still on Spectrum, and it's also on Fubu too. You might be able to find it on YouTube. You can probably stream it somewhere else. But yeah.
Maybe a Color Fan watch party for the premiere or something. Pilot episode. Yeah. Alrighty, so my first picks. If you like Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber, Fleet Street. So, the general premise of Sweeney Todd, and this is any iteration, doesn't have to be the Johnny Depp version. That's just the one that's easiest to get an image of. The general premise of Sweeney Todd is that he ends up cannibalizing people to make these meat pies that end up becoming the talk of the town, and he becomes very popular for selling these. So two suggestions that both follow in that same premise. The Horror of Dolores Roach, and that one is a limited series, and then also American Carnage, which is a movie. So both of those also have the same premise of basically cannibalizing people for food source, and they both primarily focus on Latina characters. So the show, The Horror Dolores Roach, follows one primary character who is falsely imprisoned, and when she is finally let out, she moves back to her old New York neighborhood and finds it very gentrified, and is finding it difficult to live, um, and just difficult to make ends meet. So she ends up staying with a a friend, an old friend in her neighborhood, and his business is kind of struggling, and so they end up figuring out that they can use a similar premise to in Sweeney Todd, using people in their meat pies, delicacies. In this case, it's empanadas, in order to basically make it and survive. So the movie American Carnage is kind of a twist on that. Um, Latine people are being snatched and taken to this prison camp, this home, and they end up, slight spoiler, it's kind of obvious from the thing, I think, but they end up finding out that they are the ones that are being consumed for other people. And I think similar to how the horror Dolores Roach has something important to say about gentrification, American Carnage has something important to say, in my view, about the way that Latine bodies are consumed in American culture, by the way that we kind of dehumanize them, in talking about them as people, talking about the work that they do. So I felt that that was kind of a theme, and a metaphor that was used to me kind of brilliantly in the movie American Carnage. So yep, that's my recommendation.
So these are um, what I categorize as groups of people who go missing through travel under mysterious circumstances. So I love Lost, including the last season and the last episode. I will explain it to you, not now, but if you don't, if you um, get confused about the last episode, like some other people do. Um, but basically, it is just about the survivors that crash land on the island, and they soon find out there's all kinds of mysteries and happenings on the island. Then on Manifest is a series that was first produced by NBC, but then it got canceled and then picked up by Netflix. So it's currently on Netflix. It came out a few years ago, but it is the passengers of a flight. They had turbulence, but they appeared um, to land. But then when they get home, they found out that 5 years has passed um, in the same time that they were just on the plane. So they have to um, go back and pick up their lives 5 years later to find loved ones in different places in their life. But then we follow a family. The ones that went missing start having visions of future events called the callings, and which leads to greater mysteries about where they've been, and how they're all connected. In La Brea, um, a massive sinkhole opens up in the La Brea tar pits in LA, pulling everything around it in it, including people and cars, um, buildings. And this also follows a family. Half get pulled down, and half they get separated. So the other half survives, and they figure out that they end up going through a portal that leads to 10,000 BC. Um, and then they soon find out about different other portals, and which has time travel, and other people have visions, and like all of these are kind of connected through supernatural and or government conspiracies.
Mm. So I might impromptu tack one on there if that's okay. So when you were describing Manifest, it made me think of a show that I used to love called The 4400.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately it got canceled before it got a satisfactory resolution. But I feel that the journey that the story takes you on over the seasons that we do see is satisfying enough to still make it an enjoyable show. The premise is that, you know, throughout time, people go missing, but they seemed, you know, disconnected. And then one day, 4,400 people show up on the shore of a lake, and no one knows where they came from, why they were taken, but they end up finding out that all through time, these 44 people had been taken at different points in time. But they don't know why they all showed back up together. So some people have been gone for, maybe a year or two. Some people have been gone for decades. And so they have to integrate back into society, but they're coming back into different circumstances. People who have been gone for decades, the world looks different. One person had been taken, I think he was a black man that was taken in, I think, the 40s or 50s. So now he's all of a sudden placed in at like 2010, like the world is dramatically different than the one he left. Another person had only been gone, so no one that he knew then is really around now. He's meeting the next generation of people that he knew. Another person had only been missing for a few years, so his family is still there, and he has to reintegrate and deal with the loss of and then the emotions of them finding him again. But all of these people have come back with different powers. They all have different supernatural abilities, and none of them know why. So it made me think of that when you were talking about manifest. All right, and so my next suggestion, if you like the TV show Silo, I think you would like Paradise. So it's not apparent at first, but with the season just ending, it's probably out there now. In both of these shows, people are have escaped natural disaster by living underground. And in both of these shows, you have a central character who has kind of been tasked with solving a mystery. So you have this dystopian world where you have people trying to survive in a very isolated uh, environment that believe or are uncovering some kind of shady stuff that the people in power are doing. And we follow along with them as they solve these various mysteries. So they have kind of similar elements and themes there in both of those.
Um, so all of these are shows that take place in a town where people are trapped with supernatural um, things, issues, or beings occurring in them. And the I know From is very beloved from the people who watch it. It's still on my list, so I will let Robin take it away from, and then I'll understand. I will explain the other two.
So From is it's a horror show, but like Deborah said, the thing about it is the isolation and it being in a not just it being in a single town, but them being specifically trapped there and them not knowing how or why they are trapped there. I think that's the connection. I've seen some of Under the Dome. I didn't finish the full series, but something happens to these people in From, and they get trapped in this town and they can't leave. They don't know why they got trapped there. They don't know how they got trapped there, and they don't know how to get out. And every evening, these supernatural monsters come out and attack the townspeople. So a lot of it, aside from the horror element of being attacked by these creatures, is them trying to figure out the mystery of like why they're there and the rules of the world that they're in, like when these creatures come, why certain things happen. And also at the same time, just trying to figure out how they're going to survive day to day because they've essentially been cut off from outside resources. There's no grocery stores, there's no utility bills, kinds of things. But there are other supernatural elements that impact things that do provide, those typical resources that they're used to. So trying to understand the rules around that so that they can still remain safe while also dealing with, these monsters showing up, and also at the same time trying to figure out how the heck to get out of there. So From is really good.
Um, just a side note real quick. If you the premise of this the main premise of this panel, are newer, faves, you might, but a lot of things that I watch, because I don't get to watch a lot of stuff, is our added section to this panel, which is forgotten gems, or in the more recent shows that you might not have seen. So in Under the Dome, it both Under the Dome and Haven are Stephen King adaptations. Under the Dome is a full novel, and Haven is a novella um, of Stephen King. And in Under the Dome, as Robin said, the town is, well, there is a invisible barrier that resembles a dome that forms over the town. And the people inside are trapped, cannot get out, and then the government and the military appear trying to get into the town, because it's gotten all over the news. Um, but the people in the town are trying to, grapple on how to survive with the resources, with their resources, uh, getting low because they're trapped. And then they uh, are to begin to find out that the town has a dark past, which has caused the dome, and some other the townspeople also have a past that's all linked. In Haven, you follow an FBI agent that gets sent to the town, but then you soon find out that she was pulled in but to the town by supernatural forces. Ev There are people in the town that have what they call afflictions that are called the troubles, and they have to solve the mysteries. It's kind of like it starts off like as a week, a trouble or mystery by the week, but then you find out there's an overarching story or plot line. And in one point, the town does, which is probably a homage to Under the Dome, that the town does get cloaked, where people on the outside forget about who they are, or like they never existed, and then they're trapped in the town.
Kind of like Wanda's little haven
Yeah,
or
yeah,
town.
yeah, the hex, yeah.
Mm, okay. Alrighty. So I will say that this is kind of a looser connection. Um, so the shows themselves are very different, but the thing that drew the connection for them in my mind is the underlying premise of how we we take a single type of technology and look at it, and how it impacts our lives, like the concept of a single technology and how it impacts our lives. And that's really the strength of Black Mirror. They take certain kind of ideological premises that we struggle with in our own lives and create a technology that says, what if you're able to take this concept that we already do to ourselves anyway and use a technology to be able to take it to the extreme? What would that look like? And I feel like that's what Severance does, especially in the first season, um, where they take the concept of being able to separate your work life and your personal life. People talk about that as a concept all the time, like, oh, you gotta have work life balance, separate your work life from your home life. Well, what if you could literally do that?
Mm.
And you're the two parts of yourself have no memory of the other. They're completely separate in your mind. And that is what Severance, that's the premise of Severance. And that's what it explores. The people, both their live, primarily follows this main character here on there on the screen. For most of it, we follow his life inside of his workplace. So we get to see his coworkers and how they're impacted inside of the workplace. But for him, we get to see his life outside as well and why he chose to make this decision and how it affects the people around him and how he interacts with other people when they find out that he's made this decision. As time goes on, we get to learn a little bit more about the other characters, but it primarily does follow him. So just that idea of being able to take an ideological concept and make it physically plausible is to me what connected those two.
All of these are kids, young teenagers and young adults going up against supernatural happenings, monsters, and other beings. Each show progressively, they're all kind of in the horror category, but like each show gets progressively lighter. Like Stranger Things is more hardcore than Lock and Key. Then Indiana, Erie, Indiana is kind of, fun because it is a kids show. Um, but if you don't know, Stranger Things is set in the 80s. It pays homage to a lot of films and series from the 80s, but it's centered around a group, a friend group that love D&D, and one of them goes missing. At the same time, um, a girl with psychokinetic powers shows up in town. So with everybody, um, with her help, they discovered that there is another dimension under them called the Upside Down, where monsters uh, live, and they end up having to fight them, and there's all different kinds of mysteries and discoveries going on. In Lock and Key, which is a graphic novel adaptation by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son, um, but a very gifted writer on his own, uh, is about a family that moves back into their
If y'all
father.
could pause just for a minute, it looks like our video dropped out, so I just want to make sure the screen is still being shared. So just a minute, gonna pause the recording. All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so Lock and Key is about the Lock family who father is killed. They move back into their family home, um, and then the kids discover that the house has hidden keys in it that they can use to open all types of mystery doors that have abilities, supernatural abilities, like going into portals of people's minds, or going to transporting people to another place and or time. Um, and but then it also they also discover family secrets that of why they're able to use these keys, and uh they end up having to battle a demon who discovers that they are using these keys and wants the keys for themselves. Um, and then anything you want to add, anything else? Because this is one of Robin's favorite graphic novels too.
Yes, the graphic novel. After you watch the show, pick up the graphic novel for sure. But like Deborah said, the show itself is more kid friendly. I'd say you can watch this with like an older kid, like 11 or so and up. The graphic novel is amazing. It's really great storytelling. The art is gorgeous. The character development is really good throughout the series, and it's only like 60 issues, so the entire series is out. You can read the whole thing. It does have some follow-on series as well that you can pick up, though I do recommend reading the primary story first, but it is very adult. There are some things that I think that they made the right decision in taking out of the graphic novel story and adapting them. So the plot devices that were used, they replaced them with other things that still give you the same emotional story from the characters without using certain traumatic elements. One of them was a sexual assault that happened, so trigger warning for that. In the graphic novel, it does happen off page, but it does happen. And so they remove that from the television series and replace it with another kind of traumatic thing that she goes through. She deals with alcoholism instead, but the way that they tell the story, and well, she deals with that in both, but her alcoholism comes about as a way for her to deal with her sexual assaults. And in the show, it's something that she had been struggling with previously. So they removed that element and still kept the parts of her story arc that were relevant to the story without having that, which makes the show um a little bit more appropriate for younger audiences, whereas the graphic novel is not.
um, so if you like these and want to have a little bit more lighthearted or go back to your childhood, if you grew up in the late 80s and had Nickelodeon, you might have watched Erie, Indiana. I kind of rediscovered this because you can stream this on any of like the free streaming networks like Tubi or Pluto. I saw it was on there and I was like, oh my gosh, I loved the show when I was little. But basically, it's about a family um, that moves into a new town called Erie. And the son, he discovers that these all types of bizarre and strange things with the townspeople are going on. And he befriends a neighbor that seems like he is just normal. And then they go around town to try to figure out why all these strange occurrences and people are happening in the town.
That one makes me think of Roswell. Did you ever watch that show?
Yeah, I watched it.
Mhm. Okay, this next slide, Deborah already knows, but Donna, this one's for you, okay? This is for you, Donna. So, this
All I can
first
do is
one,
laugh. I'm sorry. All I can do is laugh.
that
That's what I did when I saw it, Donna.
Donna, Deborah called when we were reviewing the slides. Deborah called me and was like, "Really, really?" And I was like, "Yeah, gotta be in here because you will see it had this one has 2 emojis.
Thank you, Deborah, for pumping it up.
So the first one has, the heart because that was our theme. How we going through, you love a show, you get the heart. But
Or a
me,
movie.
this right or movie. But for me, this movie gets the side eye. I've seen the whole thing and we watched it together. I was so mad at this movie, and Donna and Deborah swear it's so good. Every time we get the fussing about the merits of this movie. So the general premise is a person moving through time, and he ends up discovering how his own actions in the past end up impacting and creating the loop that he is going through in his present. So, I Netflix is like, "Oh, you like sci-fi mysteries. Here, watch this. We think you'll like this." So I was like, "Yeah, Netflix, you're right. I do love sci-fi mysteries." So I'm watching it and I'm like, "This feel kind of familiar." Then I get maybe halfway through and I'm like, "Predestination." It is so much like it. I was like, "You know what? I'm halfway through. I might as well finish this daggone series anyway." So the premise of Bodies is there is a single body that ends up there. So all of the people on the right hand side are detectives, and a single body ends up showing up throughout history in the same place in different points in time. And all of these detectives end up coming across the body. And so they end up figuring out ways to communicate with each other through time to try to figure out the mystery and solve why this single body keeps showing up throughout history in the same place and time. But then, yeah, maybe halfway through. I mean, people will still, if you like predestination, you like time travel elements in your mysteries, you will like it. I made it through. I wouldn't give Bodies as strong of a side eye as I do Predestination. I'd even say I somewhat maybe enjoyed it. Maybe I can admit that. But yeah, when I realized, I was like, man, it was like
But watch
Predestination.
Predestination too.
Yes, yes. Time travel mysteries are the best, as you can see, since I love Lost and that whole row. So.
But yeah, that's why this one's got 2 emojis on Predestination.
This set are I grouped them together because I figured there was a kind of linking theme as far as people grappling or with a life of organized crime, whether they're being brought into it um, by happenstance or because they have no other choice. Both Penguin and DMZ are DC adaptations. The Penguin is a series taking place after the Batman movie that oh sorry, Siri was picking me up for some reason. um on how the Penguin or Oswald, how he turns into the crime boss known as the Penguin, as you see if you followed Batman and his villains. Then DMZ was a limited series, which is still currently on Max, that is set in Manhattan after it becomes a demilitarized zone after a second civil war, the United States has happened. And then the story follows a mother who's searching for her son, which leads her inside of the DMZ, put in between her son's father, who's the leader of Spanish Harlem, and Chinatown fighting for power. And the Continental is set in the well, as you can see, in the world of John Wick, which I love. And it's one of my newer favorite franchises, especially with the ballerina coming out too. The the Continental is a prequel. It's set in the 70s, and it shows how the older gentleman in the John Wick movies, Winston, who is over the Continental currently, he how he comes to overseeing the hotel, which this is in a set of hotels that provide safe haven to train assassins. So they have this whole underground network. But the crux of this show, outside of Winston, is the supporting characters, which a lot of them are either connected to him as his brother being a Vietnam vet. And there's this one Black family that's in it that plays a huge supporting role. That it shows that the husband can't, the brother having a hard time getting, because they didn't, a lot of vets, especially when they came back from Vietnam, they didn't get support with mental or financial, and how they have to, how he has to uh, get money to try to live back in New York. And then his sister, who is taking over their father's business, gets bullied by, I believe, also again it's Chinatown again. That so they also have to find a way to live, and then they turn to um become or get into this involved into this world of assassins also. So that's why I love the Continental. Everybody should watch it. It's so good. It's only 6 episodes, or 3, 4, something like that. So.
So my next two are starting with Tales from the Crypt. So I loved this show. It came out originally when I was a kid and I wasn't allowed to watch it, but then I watched it as I was older. And the thing that I love about it is that it does have like the creepy crawly kind of horror, but it also has like strong psychological horror elements. A lot of these shows, a lot of the stories are how people respond and behave in these creepy situations. It's an anthology series. So each story, follows a different character. And Cabinet of Curiosities that came out, also a limited series. Well, Tales from the Crypt wasn't at the time, but of course it's an older show, so it's over and done with. But Cabinet of Curiosities, I haven't heard anything about more seasons for it, but that's one of the beauties of an anthology series is you can still enjoy the full series, each individual episode for what it is. And it kind of has a similar vibe where, you do have the creepy crawlies, but a lot of the story is about how people are responding to being in those situations, and how they kind of exacerbate situations by the choices that they make, or how their choices got them into those situations in the first place. So it's really enjoyable, especially if you're just looking for something, not wanting to like really get into a new longer series or anything like that. You can plop down for an hour and enjoy a good story. That's one thing I do like about anthologies in general.
So this set is um people who retrieve and oversee dangerous artifacts. And in doing my research, just because these are older shows and I have to, dive in to remember what happened, I found out that because these are both Canadian shows, Warehouse 13 borrowed a lot of stuff from Friday the 13th, the series. That's why they're so similar. But when I saw it, I was like, because I was like watching Warehouse 13 back when I watched it, and I was like, why does this feel like Friday the 13th, the series? But a lot of people, love Warehouse 13. It was one of when the Sci-Fi Network was at its high. It was in a set of shows in a shared universe, like in with Eureka and Alphas and some other shows that were on Sci-Fi at the time. Uh, that have supernatural or strange happenings in the uh in the world, in their world, that a lot of people could love and relate to. Warehouse The general premise of Warehouse 13 is Secret Service agents are assigned to a warehouse that holds artifacts powered by supernatural energies that the previous owners who are usually historical figures or events have powered. And like the cool thing about like this show is um they they like use known history and some mythologies, and you get to see them. So it's like a cool show where you can have a history lesson, but then it's in the historical figures, but it
Fun.
blends that as a quirky comedy with science and sci-fi and history and supernatural all together. Friday the 13th, the series, it has nothing to do with Jason. If you missed it, it came out in the late 80s. I stayed up past my bedtime to watch to watch the show. Um, it is about two cousins that's never met before. They inherit an antique house, and they start selling off the artifacts, but they find out that their uncle sold his soul to the devil for wealth and cursed the artifacts. So they have to go retrieve the artifacts that are cursed. So it's a lot darker than Warehouse 13. Um, but because you see every time they go out to retrieve the goods that they sold, it's affect the person that ends up with the item. So then they have to retrieve it and take it back to the vault.
Okay, you keep making me think of other stuff, Deborah. I might have to check this out because okay, I'm gonna jump on your stuff again.
I
So
have
as
one
you
too that I want to add to this one. So I'm
okay,
sorry.
yes.
Go
So
ahead.
we can totally skip my last two slides and add those to part three of like this watch that next time we do this. But as you were describing Friday the 13th, the series, it made me think of this new show. It's a cartoon, it's a kids cartoon that I really enjoy called Curses. So the premise of that series is it follows a family, a multiracial family. The father is white and he does and they live in his family home. He doesn't realize there's like a lot of artifacts and things like that. His ancestor basically, pillaged the world and stole all of these historical artifacts. And so now his family line is cursed. And he kept that a secret from his wife and kids because he was hoping that he could figure out why his family is cursed and break the curse before it passes on to his son because it follows it follows through his family line. So quirk of it, it's a multiracial family. He's white, his wife is black, his kids are multiracial. He can't figure out why his family is cursed, but his multiracial son's like, because y'all stole this stuff. So his son ends up figuring out why his family is cursed. And each episode is them trying to get each artifact back to where it belongs, because his son realizes this is how we break the curse. We need to return these artifacts where they were stolen from. So each episode follows, a different artifact as they go on these adventures to try to return these artifacts while also fighting off, the curse that is embodying on each specific artifact itself. So yeah, you made me think of that when you were describing the Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I'm have to check that out.
Okay. Alrighty, so we're gonna skip
Oh,
over.
Donna wanted.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
the
gonna
one,
skip over these and go down to suggestions.
yeah.
Yeah, because we only got 2 minutes left anyway. So
And
What was the
also, anybody in the audience, if you have a comment, a suggestion, a question, say it out loud because the panelists cannot see the text chat in Discord. If you want me to say it, just you could put it in the chat and just ask, just say, Donna, can you relay this? But we have 2 minutes, so.
well, what was your suggestion, Donna?
Oh, Lost Room. It was a three-parter on, I think, sci-fi, but it was there were these different objects that were scattered all over just kind of like the world or whatever. And when you put them together, they would do weird things. And one object is a key. It's a hotel key, but when you open the door, it opens up to any place. And so this one detective is looking for his daughter because she gets stuck in that particular room. And so he's being chased. He has the key, which is considered the most valuable of all the objects. But it's like one is a pin that if you tap it against an egg or something, it'll hard boil the egg. So some of them are stupid and some of them are real powerful. Like it might be a quarter that if you fling it at somebody, it might. Oh, I'm talking. I don't think they can hear me. I'm sorry. I thought y'all could hear me through. Okay, sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and skip me. If you all have one that you're interested in, please feel free to say it out loud. Can you all hear now? Hear me now? Okay. I'm just waiting. There's some people typing in, so I'll relay it if it is one. I will say that there were several people, awesome panel. They were relaying. You all did a great job.
Thank you.
Oh, all right. It looks like that's it in terms of what was being typed out. So, thank you all very much for doing this. This was exciting. I think we could have kept going with this. So if you all want to close out.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us for part 2. And we got some slides we didn't get to, so hopefully there'll be a part 3 coming up in the future. But many of you possibly already know our socials and everything. That's probably how you got here. But this is a QR code that will take you to our link tree, which is how you can connect to us through various socials and our website. Our link tree there at the bottom as well, just written out. So it's just linktree.com/color fandom. So definitely keep an ear out for some other things that we have coming up. The typical weekly events that Deborah and Donna are amazing at hosting for our organization. We're also going to be hosting an Afrofuturism Fest at the Durham County Library coming up in mid-May. So keep your ears out for that. And also, we're going to be hopefully talking a little bit more about Amy's TARDIS, our initiative to help support disabled fans attend local conventions. So we're going to be reaching out, trying to get some more volunteers for that as well. So just keep in contact with us and listen out for more.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.